years of mass shootings have done little to change the dialogue in Washington over gun restrictions. But my next guest is a Republican who did change his mind about what should be done. Here with me now is Republican Congressman, Air Force veteran, and pilot in the Air National Guard, Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me this morning. You now support universal background checks, red flag laws, raising the minimum age to buy a gun, banning high-capacity magazines. How did your thinking evolve?
So a lot of that happened around Vegas. So I woke up the morning after the Vegas shooting, and we heard the audio from that, and I had shot a bump stock before. I knew that was a bump stock, and so I called for banning bump stocks. And at that point, it's like, okay, this is getting out of hand. What are the things we can do to make a difference? I mean, obviously there's going to be some fundamental disagreement, and it's like, what? Well, why should somebody be able to buy a gun at 18, particularly a long gun at 18, when as of recently they can't even smoke cigarettes till they're 21? It's just the right thing to do. The problem is everybody is scared to inaction. They're frightened of the loudest voices, and 90% of Americans are begging that we do something.
Is that the reason why you think so many of your fellow Republicans aren't where you are on those issues?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a bunch that are where I am, but they won't say it, or they won't come out and say it because, again, it's, I've experienced this, whether it's talking about Donald Trump, January 6th, or the guns issue, is, yeah, once you make something that's outside of the cultist position or outside of, that, like, tribal position, you're going to get a bunch of texts that say you're crazy, it's my right, the Second Amendment. Even though we all believe in the Second Amendment, we just, believe that there are reasonable things to do about it. And, look, if you look at this shooting, you look at Buffalo, you look at Parkland, and all these others, they are people taking these guns, these ARs, under the age of 21. Can we stop all of it? No. Can we mitigate it? Certainly. And we should be doing that now.
Governor Greg Abbott says this shooting shows the need for more laws addressing mental health. Texas Senator Ted Cruz wants to reduce the number of doors in schools, install bulletproof glass, put armed cops on school campuses. Is that enough to stop mass shootings if the U.S. doesn't also do something about access to guns?
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, I do think it's a hard issue because people have to make a decision to go and do a mass shooting. But if we think that just hardening schools or reducing, basically turning schools into military camps is going to be the answer, even if it does work, which it won't, but even if it does, that's not the kind of country I want to live in, right? I got a kid that's 4 months old now. We'll be going to school someday. I don't want to have a military ID to check him into the front gate of his elementary school. And, so look, what you're seeing right now, Dana, is all these people these politicians that are scared to death to talk about the gun issue. They know that this is an issue, but they're scared to talk about it, so they launch into this thing about mental health. We all agree that mental health is a problem. First off, I'd ask, have they actually put any more money into mental health? People like Ted Cruz, highly doubt it. But secondarily, at the same time, why is an 18-year-old buying an AR? So it's not an if or that. There's always the old saying, too, about the way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Typically, I agree as well. But there were 150 good guys with guns at this shooting that didn't do anything, until basically Border Patrol SWAT showed up. We got to take handle of this, man. This is insane.
Congressman, you do still oppose a ban on the kind of assault weapons that were used in the shooting. Can you explain why private citizens need weapons of war?
Look, I have opposed a ban, fairly recently. I think I'm open to a ban now. It's going to depend what it looks like because there's a lot of nuances on what constitutes, certain things. But I'm getting to the point where I have to wonder, maybe somebody to own one, maybe you need an extra license, maybe you need extra training. And so the question is it a ban versus an additional certification? But yeah, I got to tell you, I mean, the 99.9% of people that own ARs, we all know, are not going to walk into a school and do this. But the problem is for those that support the Second Amendment, like me, we have to be coming to the table with ways to mitigate 18-year-olds buying these guns and walking into schools. My side's not doing that. My side's not coming forward with reasonable ways to defend an amendment that we think is very important. And so I'm looking at this going, fine, if people are going to put forward solutions about certifying maybe who can buy an assault weapon, I'm certainly open to that.
Well, so that is another change it sounds like you're willing to make. Congressman, I want to turn to the topic of January 6th. You are, of course, a member of that committee. The House Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy, says he will not comply with the committee's subpoena to interview him as it currently stands. Are you considering holding the sitting House Minority Leader in contempt of Congress?
You know, that's a big deal. Obviously, there are things we can do, including, you know, whether it's with ethics or other things. Trust me, every day we're talking about what to do when if these members don't comply with the subpoena. And so we'll see. But I'm going to tell you, ultimately, it says way more about him than us if he doesn't come in. Because, look, he has information. We want to talk to him. This is the House that he wants to be the Speaker of, by the way. And he's saying, you don't have a right to talk. Well, look, I'm not going to be here next year in Congress, but I guarantee if he is Speaker, there's going to be people that are like, wait, you didn't even bother to comply with a subpoena. Kevin McCarthy has no respect for the institution anymore, for the process. All he wants to do is be powerful, and it's not even be powerful through normal means. It's through really kissing up to Donald Trump. I mean, that's more on him than us.
Adam Kinzinger, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.